Hello, this is Kathleen from the World Economic Federation. Today we are going to discuss the current situation regarding the dismantling of government services by the fossil fuel industry and their billionaire allies. Currently, if you live in America, your interests are under siege by a billionaire class that has chosen to tear up the social contract and the U.S. Constitution in its pursuit of power and control. Whether you are young and need an education, young or adult in need of worker protections, older and dependent on Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, or anyone in need of health care or disability protections in general, you are up against billionaires who see these services as an obstacle to greater power over you. They want you in a state of economic desperation to turn on your neighbor as they take away more and more of your resources in the name of their imposed social Darwinist beliefs that put themselves at the top and out of reach of any competition that may undermine their interests. By flooding the job market with child labor, the elderly forced out of retirement and forced to sell stock by a Wall Street meltdown that allows the wealthy to buy their stock at fire sale prices, by dismantling Social Security and other institutions for the retired community, and by increasing incarceration through over-policing and the elimination of civil rights, combined with a for-profit prison system that receives government handouts while flooding the market with cheap slave labor, they seek to create a desperation cycle in the working class that will put prosperity so far out of reach that you will never challenge their interests. Now that the billionaires have dismantled so much of the social safety net and the social contract we've had since World War II, and are doing it in such a way as to make it as difficult as possible to reinstitute such systems, how do you want to rebuild? Do you want to rebuild these systems again within a government that has already told you that it is not its job to maintain its contract with America, the New Deal, or even your constitutional rights when challenged by corporate and wealthy interests? Or perhaps you would prefer to rebuild in an institution whose sole purpose is to preserve your rights, democracy, and communities. The Federation, unlike governments run by oligarchs and international corporate interests who do not value the rights of citizens, is built to be equitable and to serve the working class. We are not here to defend the supremacist beliefs of a few oligarchs who get government handouts while declaring anything the government does for you, be it defend your rights, honor your sacrifices, or protect your community from toxic pollution from cost-cutting, socialism, or waste, fraud, and abuse. The Federation has no interest in the use of state violence to force conformity, but instead chooses a philosophy of equitable exchange to respect your freedom and right to choose by working to pay and serve you justly for your contributions to its success. Unlike the billionaires, we're not here to take your rights, services, labor, and taxes through threats or acts of violence. Using the Federation's model of leveraging labor organizing and private equity to address the climate crisis under ranked choice democratic governance, we have the opportunity to rebuild the systems that billionaires seek to destroy through authoritarian power grabs in order to make you vulnerable and controllable. We're here to rebuild through the market and better business practices. And by putting these programs into a system built on equity, transparency, and accountability to, for, and by the people, we are aiming for the purest distillation of America's promise of greatness that you can find in the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, not the greatness that the oligarchy wields as a bludgeon against both a majority of Americans and the rest of the world. Do you think people would boo the national anthem if our leaders truly represented the potential of America's greatness, where we are all created equal? Would they boo the anthem of the defenders of unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the defenders of the freedom of speech, assembly, and religious practice, the defenders of the innocent? Of course not. To them, the anthem no longer represents the hopeful aspirations of our flawed but earnest democratic experiment. They boo an anthem that rings hollow because to them, it now just represents the nakedly colonial interests of international corporations and the billionaire class they serve. They boo a nation that soils its name with broken promises towards the rights of its citizens and its closest allies. They boo a nation that has lost faith in working for a more humanitarian future and has decided to sell out its core aspirational goals of freedom, truth, and justice under the rule of law, by and for the people, for a red hat and billionaire tax cuts. With a government that is willing to break faith with its own working class and undermine its own constitution and democratic experiment to serve the billionaire class, do you actually want to rebuild the social safety net within that institution? After all, its leaders openly state that it is not the government's job to maintain such commitments. If you wish to rebuild the social safety net, fix health care, and address the climate crisis, using free enterprise that is governed for and by the people, and that says it is our job to heal the sick, shelter the homeless, honor the commitments to our parents for their retirement, improve the lives of prisoners, aid our neighbors, and restore the environment, while recognizing the humanity of all people and their desire to breathe free. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to bring more attention to the importance of the Federation's work in service to all of humanity, now and in the future, regardless of the anti-democratic, anti-humanitarian government we have today. Together we can rebuild better than ever through transparency, accountability, and compassion.